Hello, everyone, and welcome to this actual play of External Containment Bureau, a new RPG that we're kickstarting on Kickstarter, of course, for Zine Quest 3. My name is Eli Kurtz. My pronouns are he, him, and I'll be the game master today. I'm also producing External Containment Bureau with a fine team of collaborators, Lexi Antoku, Eric Brunsell, Michael Elliott, and Justin Ford. None of those people are here today, though. I'm here with some wonderful guest players who are going to show off the game for us. So, with no more ado, let's get you all introduced with your name, your pronouns, and then your character's code name. And then I'll talk a little about the rules of the game, and we'll jump right into gameplay. So, Laurie, let's get started with you.
Hi, yeah, I'm Laurie. I use he, him pronouns, and I am going to be playing Agent Oxford.
Wonderful. Ray, or Emma, you next.
Hi, I'm Emma, my pronouns are she, her, and I'm going to be playing Agent Chris.
Wonderful. And last but not least, Ray.
Hi, everybody. My name is Ray, he, him pronouns, and I am going to be playing Agent Oscar.
All right, wonderful. And we're going to figure out what that means here in just a minute. I want to talk a little bit about the game as a little bit of a promo thing before we get started. So, External Containment Bureau is a game of paranormal investigation and bureaucracy. It uses a lightly forged in the dark design framework, which we are using or we're creating with the intention to make this game as hackable as we possibly can. This game is coming with a free SRD and license called the Redacted Materials License. So if you like what you see here, gives you a lot of ideas, and you want to make your own content for it, you can do that for free and put it on your storefronts or play it with your home groups or anything you want to do. So the nature of External Containment Bureau is that you are playing agents, specially trained agents of a mysterious bureau that investigates paranormal events and objects and environments. You have three directives as members of the Bureau. First, investigate. We need to know what's going on. Second, obscure. Oftentimes, the paranormal world and the mundane world don't interact well. And so it's our goal as agents to make sure that that interaction is as good as it can be. If that means that the local population is cool with whatever's happening and you just need to make sure everybody's on the same page, maybe that's what you do. If it turns out that there are people in the local area who might exploit the paranormal entity, then perhaps you need to cover up that entity so that they can find peace. If you find yourself with an entity or an event that is actually not at home in the area you're investigating, then maybe you help it get back to its home, or you bring it back to the Bureau and accommodate it for a little while you figure out what to do. The third directive of all agents is to contain, and that is that last bit that I just mentioned. We always want to make sure that the paranormal and mundane worlds are in appropriate balance with each other, and we use all the tools at our disposal to make sure that happens. Now, your characters are made up of a fairly simple set of mechanical touch points. You've got a given name, you've got a code name, and pronouns. Those are fairly basic identifying information. You also choose a background. So, for example, Laurie, can you tell us a little bit about Agent Oscar?
I can tell you about Agent Oxford.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. That's right. I'm already getting them confused.
No worries. We've picked lovely, confusing code names there. Yes, Agent Oxford is a former librarian who works in the records department. Before he was a librarian, he got a degree in philosophy. His brother squandered away the family fortune, and he realized he had to get a job. It was either library or teacher. So he went with library, and he's really
Perfect.
been downhill from there.
Wonderful. And so, because you have a background as a former librarian, you have some special things that are given to you. So, for example, you have an occult manual that you carry around with you, and you can consult that to figure out weird things that are going on. You've also got an eidetic memory, so you're very good at remembering things from all the times spent in the stack. In addition to that, every agent will also have a department that they work in within the Bureau. So, Agent Grease, can you tell us a little bit about your department?
So I am working with the field operations, and that means that I also get to have some permissions, right?
Yes, that's right. So every department has permissions and standard issue gear. So in your case, your department permission is that you work with a small team of NPCs, of operatives that you can employ in whichever way you want. They may provide, a bonus because you're properly equipped to handle a situation, but the quality of the group that you're working with and the number of people and the timeliness is determined by me as the GM there. So that's something to keep in mind. And then also you've got standard issue gear. Like I said, every department has a list of standard issue gear. In your case, you have a 2-piece suit, a radio, a cover identity, you have access to an armory, and a simple binding ritual, which is something that you can define however you want. In playtests in the past, we've used that for everything from holding a door shut to keeping a ghost in place long enough to have a conversation with it. So that's a very quick look at the sort of bureau-oriented parts of your character sheet. But a big part of the bureau is, in fact, being exposed to paranormal situations and becoming a little bit paranormal yourself. So when we make a roll in the game, we have questions that we ask about building it so that we can build a dice pool there. The first thing we're going to do whenever we take action of any kind is that I'm going to establish the position of the action. So that could be, if you're really controlled, if you're cautious, if you're doing this truly in proper bureau fashion, I'm probably going to say you're playing that safe. If it's a little more unorthodox, if you're taking chances, if you're maybe giving yourself the risk of exposure, of public knowledge of some kind, then I might call that risky. And likewise, if you're really pushing past your limits, if you're unrestrained, if you're throwing the book out the window, I might call that danger close. And basically, the position is going to determine what kind of consequences might come from your roll. From there, we're going to build a dice pool. There's one die for every question that we answer here. So the first one, are you doing this like a trained agent of the Bureau? If you are, you get a bonus die for that. So you'll notice if you're playing it safe, you're probably going to get a bonus die right off the bat. If you're danger close, you might be working with a reduced dice pool depending on the specifics around your action. Second question, do you have a relevant background? So former librarian or CIA agent or anything like that. If it applies to the narrative of the situation, then you get a bonus die. Likewise, do you have any relevant standard or special issue gear? What you are equipped with is a big part of your ability to respond to these paranormal situations. And then the final question, will you draw upon paranormal powers? So even if you don't have any defined powers, you can still draw upon the ambient paranormal energy in the area. And you put yourself a little bit at risk when you do that, but you do get a bonus die. This is a little bit similar to Blades in the Dark's mechanics for Push Yourself and Devil's Bargain. So keep that in mind. And then once you've built your dice pool, you roll the dice, and we do a typical Blades in the Dark or Forged in the Dark success band. If you get a 6, that's a full success. If you get a 4 or a 5, that's a success with a consequence. If you get a 1 through 3, that's a failure. And if you roll more than 1 6, then that's a critical success, and you not only succeed, but you get a benefit on top of that. So that's a basic look at our dice pool. And from there, I want to jump back and talk about these paranormal powers a little bit. So as you draw upon paranormal energy, you will gain what's called resonance with the paranormal world around you. Resonance is a little bit like a stress track. It's a 6 checkbox track that we've got. And when you max out your resonance, you gain your first permanent paranormal power. Everybody has one of those, and this is a pretty cool part of the game. So I'd like everybody to go through and name the power that they have that's on your character sheet, and then tell us about what it does. And so let's go ahead and start with Agent Grease here. Do you want to tell us about your power at the top of your list here?
So my power is precognition, so I can mark 1 resonance to receive a vision about something that's about to happen in the next few moments, and I can spend even more resonance to know something that will happen in the next few minutes.
Wonderful. All right. So that's the basic format we see on display here. You choose to take 1 resonance, pushing yourself a little closer to that paranormal limit, and you get some sort of narrative bending permission as a result. Or you can invest a little more resonance and it's even more powerful. Let's see here. Let's do Agent Oxford next.
Yes, so my power is retrocognition. So when I gather information, I may mark a resonance to see echoes of past events, whatever that may mean and however useful that may be.
Yeah. Sounds like it would be really well oriented to like investigation or something, but there are all kinds of applications we could find for this. So last but not least, Agent Oscar, you want to tell us a little bit about your power?
Yeah, I can move shit with my mind.
Amazing. So you're, I'm getting some taste of character here too. You're a no nonsense kind of guy.
I mean, I wouldn't. Yeah, I say what I say. I do what I do.
Of course. And we respect that kind of honesty here at the Bureau as well. So, yeah, you've got telekinesis. I want everybody to know that if you push really hard, you might get additional powers even in just this one shot. Like I said, the resonance track is only 6. So if you're constantly drawing on resonance powers and that sort of thing, then you might gain another one. And there's a drop-down list on your character sheets where you can sort of browse through the different powers and see if there's one of those that you might like. Okay, so the last thing I want to do before we set up our gameplay and get started is to talk a little bit about the tone of the game and any real dreams or limits that we have for the game. So, as I've said, the directives of the Bureau are to investigate, obscure, and contain. There's really nothing in there that says we have to be violent. There are some characters, very few actually, who have access to weaponry. Agent Grease, for example, you have armory access because you're in the field operations department. But generally, taking those kind of really big, loud actions is going to hurt the investigation more than it's going to help it. And that might be something that we have to consider in the post-mission debrief. And of course, this information will all be entered to your permanent records. So please keep that in mind as you're pursuing the work of the Bureau. Where was I? Yeah, so the tone of the game is adjustable. We've had games that are a little more serious and dramatic and even horrific. We've also had games that are very lighthearted. It's almost like The Office, or one of those like office comedy shows that you see on TV. So I want to talk a little bit about that. Where do we feel like we're landing here? Is it more Twin Peaks? Is it X-Files? Is it Scooby-Doo? What are we all feeling there?
Twin Peaks, X-Files, more along that spectrum.
I'm feeling X-Files, but
Sure.
I have a feeling Agent Oxford might be a little useless. So if it is X-Files, then you might need to pick up some of that slack.
Sure. Well, and I'll say also that I am not super familiar with X-Files, so like the vibe I'm getting from that is that it would be more along the serious lines, a little more on the sort of pressures of conspiracy lines or something. Is that sort of what we're thinking about when we talk about that?
Yeah, I think like Twin Peaks style, like really deep horror might be a little bit much for me. If it's okay to set that boundary, then I'd like to do that. But X-Files and kind of Monster of the Week is a vibe I really love.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, I personally wouldn't shy away from the weirdness of the paranormal as long as it's more in that monster of the week sort of mood.
Sure.
But I think that exploring what this paranormal world can look like as opposed to the regular world can be a very interesting juxtaposition there.
Sure. So I'm hearing, if we were to talk about this in terms of lines and veils, we would want to veil any graphic horror or something like that. We would want to veil any really heavy themes, maybe even draw a line over some of those. Like I know for myself, I don't like to have any sort of child abuse or any sort of sexual abuse in games, period. So that's definitely a hard limit for me, and I'm sure we can all accommodate each other for whatever we have.
yeah, I think a veil over like gore and really graphic horror, but like it's fine for that to happen. We can just kind of skip over it and not describe it in detail. And those lines that you've already discussed seem really good to me.
Perfect. And Ray, anything to add from you about things that you definitely don't want in the game?
No, I think I'm okay with
Okay.
the lines as we have.
Sounds good. All right. And then my general, foundational rule of thumb is let's all just exercise good taste. We know each other a little bit, but we're still kind of new to each other. So let's just take care and sort of consider what may or may not be out there or edgy or what have you, and keep that good taste in mind. So with that, let's go ahead and transition into gameplay. Gameplay proceeds through phases similar to a lot of Forged in the Dark games. And the first phase in this case is the briefing. After that, we'll jump right into the mission. In a lot of Forged in the Dark systems, we would do that with an engagement roll, but we have something like an engagement roll that's a little more delayed than that. So let's see here. We find ourselves inside the External Containment Bureau at the moment. We are in a very dry, not corporate, but federal sort of environment. It's brutalist architecture. There's some wood paneling on the walls, a big table, fluorescent lighting, a projector putting images on the wall, sort of telling people what's going on. You are all gathered here around this table because you've been selected as the response team for the latest paranormal occurrence out in the world. I am taking the role of your general manager, and I am here to brief you on the information that we know so far and what you are going to do to respond to that. So, agents, this is mission ID OR-007. We are tentatively describing it as a strange trip, and here's what we know. Suspicious accidents have been reported in and around the Golden Oaks retirement complex. I click and you can see a slide of this retirement complex. It's very 70s architecture, ranch style, single story. There are trees in the background. It almost looks like a rendering. It's a very picturesque spot. Some residents have reported hearing strange sounds and are becoming anxious. I click the slide again, and there is a list of cases that relate to strange sounds and anxiety for various cross-referencing purposes. Determine if the accidents are paranormal in nature, contain if necessary, and provide residents and staff with a plausible explanation. I will tell you immediately, the latest information we've received is that there has been regular reports of disorientation, followed by residents at this complex facing towards stairwells in the building. It is a single-story building, but there is, of course, a basement with multiple access points, and we have found that the residents tend to face toward those stairs whenever they are reporting strange or uneasy feelings. Now, agents, are there any questions you have before we dismiss you to go to the scene? And at this point, what I actually want to do, instead of questions right away, is introduce your characters. So let's talk about the look of your character, the demeanor of your character as you're sitting around this table. And I want to get an idea of your vibes before we really try to ask any clarifying questions about what might be going on. So let's start with Agent Oxford. What do you look like and what are you doing here?
Yes, Agent Oxford is an older man. He looks to be in, maybe his 50s. A big moustache, kind of graying hair, little spectacles. He's kind of scribbling things down in a notebook, but he writes in shorthand in that very secretarial way, so no one can actually read what it's saying. The big mug of tea. He's got vibes of slight anxiety. I think he thought, he had a couple more decades before he'd have to go to a retirement home. So it's hitting a little bit close to some of his nervousness about aging. But other than that, that's probably most of what you would pick up from him.
Of course. And Emma, let's go next with Agent Grease.
Yeah, so I'm picturing Agent Grease with a bit of an ambivalent look. They either look like they are a young person with some older traits, or maybe some older people that really look young and very rejuvenated. And I'm sort of picturing them as very by the book, very cautious, but always with a very clear sparkle of curiosity in their eyes and in their questions. You can see that they try to not have them be so overtly curious, but you can feel that there's always a little like desire to know something more in every gesture that they have.
Great, wonderful. And last but not least, Agent Oscar.
Oscar has his boots kicked up on the table. He's got a bit of a gut over a muscular frame, some tattoos. He's not really one for wearing office wear, so his button down is sort of a little bit too casual. Um, he's got a smell that's very distinct from him, and he is flicking with his mind a little paperclip. He's constantly just sort of like playing little football games with it while the briefing is going on. And he looks to Agent Oxford, and he just sort of mutters to himself like, "Shit, you know they always get us confused when we're on the same mission together. It's just gonna be fucking shit show again." And just and stuffs.
I think that while he's doing that, like Agent Chris is trying to ask the most long and redundant question to the manager, just so the behavior doesn't look like as disrespectful to him.
Oh, sure, you're running cover. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, Agent Oxford is like, well, yes, you know, we do look rather similar, so you can see how the mistake would be made. So he kind of edges his chair slightly away.
For what it's worth, Agents Oxford and Oscar, we do have it marked here in your permanent records that the defining difference between the two of you is, in fact, dialect in nature. We understand the various nationalities at present here in the Bureau, and we will endeavor always to keep distinct and separate the agents that we have. Ever since that incident a few months ago where the two agents were warped together into a single consciousness, we have tried very difficult to keep everyone straight. So we appreciate that, of course. Please refer to case file Q7993 for more information about that, although note it is heavily redacted. Now, back to the issue at hand. We have some information about this mission, but of course the nature of paranormal work is that we have a limit to what we can gather before we arrive on the scene. Agents, if that will be all, then I think it is time for you all to disembark on your journey.
Very well. If I can just finish my coffee, that would be great. Do you mind? I just need like 7 more minutes.
Not at all. Please finish your coffee and then report to the depot for requisition of a service vehicle that you can use to travel to the location.
Yes. Okay.
So, you all finish up what you need to do. We have this little montage where everybody's getting up from the chair, tucking their effects in order, papers, gear, whatever you need. You get to the depot, and there is a nondescript black vehicle that you are going to be getting into. And the depot head tells you, we're going to be taking the long tunnel on this one. It's overland, so there's really no trouble here. And you all get into the car. Who's driving? Anyone in particular?
I think that I would be driving.
Sure. As the field ops representative, it does
Yeah.
make sense, of course. So you get into the driver's seat, check mirrors, make sure everybody's got their seatbelts on, etc. And then you take off and you drive down this tunnel, and you know that the Bureau is located somewhere on the East Coast, but you're familiar with this work already, and so you are driving through a tunnel for what seems like somewhere between 5 minutes and 35 minutes. And then by the time you get out, the lights flowing overhead and the street markings underneath sort of blur together. It's a very meditative state. And then when you come out, you find yourselves in the desert. You are somewhere in the western United States, but you don't know where. And this is typical of the Bureau. being itself a sort of paranormal place. So you arrive in the desert here, you're driving, and you come to a community that is a literal oasis in the middle of this arid terrain. Flatlands, mesas in the distance, but here, in this quiet little valley, there is a patch of trees and some green grass and a row of houses, a little school system, nice little municipality. And you arrive at the Golden Oaks Retirement Complex, and it looks more or less like you saw in the slide projections. That was clearly a promotional photo taken at the beginning of its time in operation. At this point, the paint's a little faded, the trees have changed a little bit, the landscaping has been redone. But more than anything, you do feel a sense of unease when you arrive. So something that we need to introduce here for gameplay purposes is the mission clock. There is a 6-tick mission clock that will escalate the situation as we go through. For now, there's nothing going on, but in the course of your investigation, that might get ticked as a result of consequences, that might get ticked as a result of successfully finding some information. It's just intended to create some pressure around what you're doing here. So first, we know that we need to identify and investigate the phenomena. That's your first task. So who's taking point here? As you get out of the car, you see people walking around the outdoor spaces. There are tables and chairs set up. There are some people who are playing chess. My cat, a paranormal entity in his own right, is very curious about what I have going on here. Podcats. Everybody needs one. Anyway, so yeah, here we are. We are getting out of the car, heading up. Are you immediately going into the building? Are you consorting with the people outside? How do we want to approach this? And of course, it's fine for people to split up and pursue multiple things.
I think Oscar is sweating, like profusely, just bag of sweat underneath each armpit and all over his brow. And I think when he gets out of the car, he's going to slightly trip up a little bit and kind of fall, and then just sort of pick himself up and just go, God damn, I hate the desert. And just kind of look around. But I am not one to take points, so I'll let the other agents decide what to do.
Well, Agent Oxford is he has this old, like, tweedy jacket on. He's kind of like brushing it down. He kind of like looks up. Is there some kind of a reception?
There certainly is. You head inside, and there is a desk set up there. There is a woman sitting behind the counter. She's young. She's dressed quite well, but she's in nurse scrubs. It looks like she's maybe just posted here for now, covering for someone. But, she's got very crisp, clean scrubs. They're a nice shade of lilac. And when you walk in, she says, "Oh, welcome to Golden Oaks. Hi, my name's Ellie. Can I help you?"
Question. Do we already have a cover set up, or are we just showing up to this retirement home with no cover and just going to try and bluff our way in?
That's a good question. How does... I don't have any feelings one way or the other. I think we could find some valid approaches either way. So what do other folks feel?
I think it would be plausible for the Bureau to have already issued some kind of cover for us. Like maybe we are here to like fix the basement that keeps like having outbreaks with the lighting, right? Or like something of the sort.
Sure.
Or we can just be here to visit our elderly relatives, as you do, in
Sure.
groups of 3.
So
Dressed in black.
I like both of those options. Some sort of
Yeah.
facilities maintenance response, and then also some sort of, just visitation hours. I think the look for each character will change a little bit depending on which one we do there. And we can also take a mixed approach. So for you other 2 agents, do you have any thoughts one way or the other about that?
It makes sense for Oscar to pose as some sort of, utility worker or the cable guy. I feel like that's pretty in character for him. So something along those lines.
I will say Oxford looks about as far away from a utility worker as you can possibly get, but he's happy to try and bluff it.
You're the supervisor, of course.
Oh, yes, that's a thing that we definitely have when we look at pipes. Indeed.
I'm the person that carries the screws around and all the tools, because that's also that you have with the cable guys.
Sure. So then do the three of you all roll up to the reception desk together to be a unified front, or are some of you still in the car maybe putting tools together? What does this look like?
I think I'm near the car putting on my jumpsuit and maybe my outfit, and going to be looking around to. I'm assuming we're parked kind of far away. So just sort of waiting for the other agents to make their entrance before I sort of come in, like, as a separate party, basically.
Sure. So, and then Agent Grease, are you at the front desk with Agent Oxford, or are you doing something else as well?
I would definitely not rush it towards the entrance and just take a minute to have a look around and see, if there are any people around, if there's any, maybe one of the members of the residence that's just like having a break outside or something, someone who I can talk to.
Sure. So maybe you and Agent Oscar are both at the vehicle. Agent Oscar is putting materials together while you are looking around, right?
Yeah, I think that I'm sort of trying to make my suit look less like a suit. So I'm taking the tie away and I'm like putting the sleeves off a little bit so it looks, a little more casual.
Sure. If you'd like also, you could just put on a jumpsuit over your suit as well. That would cover things up pretty
Yeah,
effectively.
but like that kind of stains the suit. It's like a whole thing.
Of course, you don't want wrinkles. It's dry clean only.
I don't want them.
Okay, sounds good. And I want to double check here as well. So Agent Grease, pronouns are they, them.
Yes.
Agent Oxford, pronouns are he, him. And then
Correct.
Agent Oscar, pronouns are he, him again, right?
Yep.
Okay, cool. That's good to know. So while you all are in these various positions, we're going to handle Agent Oxford first. So you're at the front desk, and you've come in, and have you introduced yourself already? I know Ellie introduced herself, but we sort of took a pause there really quick.
Yes. Hello, young lady. I'm Robert. I'm with the company that's coming to fix the lights in the basement. Some of my guys are outside. Would you mind giving us passes and showing us where to go?
So whenever you start speaking, her eyes light up and she's just super pleased to be talking to you. And then you start to talk about the basement, and Ellie's eyes immediately, like, she sort of reflexively pulls into herself a little bit. And she says, well, first of all, isn't that accent just precious? You are so cute. I'm just so glad you're here. We don't get many folks from across the pond very often, and let me just say, it's a treat. So welcome to Golden Oaks. But you hear about the basement.
Yes, we had a call about some flickering lights or something. Was it?
We've had a few reports of different kinds, and I just really appreciate that you're here. We need somebody to take a look. We're honestly not sure what's going on, but it seems quite strange. So, maybe if you could just gather your team and come with me, then I can take you there and we can take a look right away. Does that sound okay?
That sounds perfect, Ellie. My pleasure. Let me go grab the others.
Well, my pleasure. This is, and then as you start to walk away, she looks after you and kind of shakes her head. Oh, so fun, and then goes back to typing on a computer or something. Meanwhile, out at the vehicle, so we've got Agent Oscar starting to finish up this suiting up process. Agent Grease is keeping an eye out, and there is a resident, in fact, who's coming over to you. This is a quite handsome gray fox of a man. He is coming over to you, and he's got this really immaculately cared for goatee, and his hair is sort of perfectly coiffed, but otherwise he's wearing this thick brocade robe, and he's got his hands in his robe, and he's shuffling over to you, and he looks just really upset about something. So he approaches Agent Grease first, of course, and he says, "Hey, are you here about the basement?"
Actually, yeah, we are here to fix some lights around.
"It's the government."
Do you think so?
"I do. I think the government's got, they talk about those chemtrails from the planes, and I hear it's crop dusting, and they just come over this community every day. It was because they were trying to get more grass out here in the desert, right? But I tell you what, it's not the case. They're dropping something down here, and it's making us all funny. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So you're here to do something about that, right?"
Yeah.
"Yeah, well, hey, secret's safe with me. Don't you worry about anything you're here to do. I'll run interference for you. No problem. You just say the word."
Could I just have your name so I can know when to call?
"My name's Herman Green
Herman.
is
Yeah.
my name. Yeah, Herman. With just the one N."
Got it just right.
Great.
Do
Good.
you need any other kind of help besides the basement? I saw that you were a little.
Well, after you take a look at the basement, maybe you can come by my room. I've been seeing things," he says, looking around his shoulders and everything, kind of scanning the horizon, "and I've got stories to tell."
I would love that.
Good.
I've got to go now,
Oh, of course. Well, just
but I'll definitely.
keep things
Take up
under
your-
wrap, and your secret's safe with me, okay?
Sure thing.
Great. All right. See you later. And then he shuffles off, and he's looking around his shoulders the whole time. He actually almost doesn't even notice Agent Oxford, and almost bumps into him. And he's like, "Oh, pardon me," and shuffles away. So, Agent Oxford, you arrive having this scene having just played out.
Excuse you. Yes. So there's the lovely young lady in reception. Her name's Ellie. She's going to just, give us our passes and show us the way to the basement. She did seem a little disturbed by the whole thing. I'm not really sure why, but I'm sure it's something that we can work out as we go along.
Yeah, it seems like the whole situation with the basement has some of the people around a little on the edge, but we'll sort it out.
Well, are we all ready?
I am.
Okay.
All right. And Agent Oscar, anything to add before we head down to the basement?
No, it's probably whistling.
Sure. All right. So you all head back into the reception area. You go to the front desk, and Ellie is there. She's very gracious. She stands up, shakes all your hands. Unless, of course, anybody recoils from that, in which case she just gives a friendly wave. And she says, "Okay, well, everyone, if you would just follow me down the hallway here, it is very important that we be somewhat timely about this. Some of the residents, well, they're getting upset, and we just want to do everything we can to sort of make sure that they're comfortable here. It's the nature of a retirement complex," and she's going on for a long time, but she is saying this stuff while she's bringing you down the hallway, and the vibes keep getting weirder as you go. There's nothing really overt, but you get, the hair on the back of your neck stands up. Actually, what's a sign from every person that something is weird here? How does the paranormal manifest for your character personally? Let's start with Agent Oscar.
I think that it starts with surreptitious glances from the various residents of this retirement home, and just a general sweaty palm feeling on his sort of extremities. And then he starts, let's say he starts sweating a lot, but also he begins to feel like there are strange kind of smells in the air. Like strange, yeah, just things that he can't explain. Banana cream pie, chocolate, maybe like moldy rice, and it's just all sort of like kind of comes and goes. And that's usually when he knows that something's amiss.
Sure. And what about Agent Grease?
I think that I start to feel the ambience getting very humid. And at first that's fine, right? Like some older buildings are humid, but then I remember, wait, aren't we like in the middle of the desert though? And it's just like as we begin going down, I feel that maybe some of the walls, they are mostly painted, mostly right, but then you can spot some like very aggressive fungi around that just doesn't seem to grow in a natural shape, but are just like very concentrated spots that give that humid feeling, even though it's not like a uniform thing as you would expect.
Sure. Refer to case file EG 997 for the reference material on paranormal fungi, of course. Yes, that makes
One of my
perfect sense.
favorite. Where I go to sleep every time.
Riveting reading, let me tell you. And last but not least, Agent Oxford. What's a sort of manifestation of the paranormal for you?
I think for Agent Oxford, a bit of light paranormal activity is nothing unusual to him. Just, a little bit of an itch and a twitch in the mustache. But as it gets more intense, he's been around, he's had some bad missions, some bad mistakes, and I think his bones start to ache and he can kind of feel all of those old kind of feelings and mistakes coming back to haunt him. Um, his kind of fingers start to like ache and his skin starts to crawl. He doesn't like it at all.
Sure. And all of these feelings for you, the sort of hot cold flashes that Agent Oscar is experiencing, the humidity and noticing these fungi for Agent Grease, and the sort of growing sense of unease that's happening for Agent Oxford and everyone, that is continuing to build. It's still very mild, but you can tell the presence of it. And then finally you get to the end of this hallway and there's a doorway that says maintenance access. Ellie uses her key, unlocks the door, and there's just a utilitarian metal staircase that goes down into a cinder block lined entryway into what's clearly behind the scenes maintenance territory. Ellie stands at the doorway, and she's clearly almost shaking right here because she's just unnerved. And she says, well, that's as far as I'll take you here. I don't want to keep you too long. There's our maintenance person, Joshua, they them pronouns. They're downstairs. They're happy to help you out, let you know a little bit about what's going on. But, well, this is as far as I go since the first accident. So. And
Excuse me, Ellie, the first accident? Is that...
Yes, you may have seen it in some of the reporting that we sent out, but it happened here in the stairwell. And oh, you know what? My beeper is going off. She reaches down to her waist, and there's clearly nothing there. And she's like, I should really get back to the front desk. And then she just turns on her heels and takes off without even waiting for your response.
Nice young lady.
Excellent manners. Really enjoyed her company.
Yeah, real exciting this mission, huh? Going down where no ECB officer has gone before. And I think with that, Oscar's just going to step down onto the stairwell and into the basement.
Sure. I will say... Oh, go ahead.
Any lights down the basement, or is it like total darkness?
It's dim, but there are lights.
Okay.
The cover story that we've sort of explored so far is that you're down in the basement to take a look at some flickering lights. So that's something that we're seeing going on. But there are some, right? It's like if upstairs it's lit, the full length of the hallway. Here it's more like, you know, maybe half or a third as much lighting fixtures are placed on the ceiling. And we've been playing for about an hour, so I want to have a quick break, but I do want to point out this is an ideal situation for one of your powers. We have a report of an accident that no one is telling you the details of.
Yeah, I was going to mention that, but maybe after we have a break.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Well, I was thinking it might be fun to leave that as a sort of a cliffhanger thing. So do you want to go ahead and take
Okay.
care of that?
Oh.
Yes, just excuse me one moment. He kind of takes off the spectacles and like polishes them a little and puts them back on, and kind of looks around. So I'm going to use the retrocognition ability to see echoes of past events and
Sure.
mark a resonance.
And is that channeled through your glasses? Is that what I'm getting there? It's sort of, is that part of the ritual to activating this, or what sort of things do you do to make that happen?
Well, I think it's more that his glasses were a little bit smudged, and he just wanted to see quite clearly. It's something that I think just is channeled through his mind and his memory, and it's almost an extension of that eidetic memory that did him absolutely no good in his degree way back when, but is now very helpful.
Sure, absolutely. Your memory is so good that you can remember things that happened in a place even if you weren't there.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
It's easy for some.
Of course. So let's do an action roll here to figure out what's going to happen. I'm going to go ahead and set the position. I'm going to say that this is playing it safe. You are doing this while no one else is around. It's right here at the beginning of the investigation. There's nothing really that's gone wrong. So I think we're in good shape. So play it safe is the position. Now let's build a dice pool. Is what you're doing here typical of a trained agent of the Bureau?
Well, I think gathering information is, but I don't know about looking into the past. I feel like that's kind of up to a table ruling.
Sure. So something that I want to point out about your power is that it is marked as certified. Something that we would get into if we were doing a full campaign of the game is that when you gain new powers, initially, those are things that just manifest within you, and you can use them during a mission, but you have to go back and get them certified by the Bureau to make sure that there's a proper record of you having the power. And so because it's certified, this would be authorized Bureau use of the power. So in this case, you are doing this like a trained Bureau agent so far. If you gain another power in this mission, might be a different story.
Yeah. Okay, so yes for that then. What are the other ones? Do I have a background? I don't know if being a librarian is really relevant here, or being a philosophy graduate. So I'm not sure if that would apply. Nor is there any relevant standard or special issue, although I suppose the memory, if that counts as gear.
Well, I'm looking here. Let's see. So your standard issue, you've got a radio, a cover identity, a containment checklist, redacted records. Your special issue is an occult manual. You could certainly employ the manual and see if that helps you out.
Sure. Since it's the first roll, let's roll a big pile of dice.
Sure. And then you are, of course, using paranormal powers. This is retrocognition.
Indeed.
And so you've already marked your resonance for that. And let's go ahead and roll the dice and we can sort of see how this past scene played out.
All right. So I'm just going to roll them on my table. Okay, so that's 1, 3, 5, 6. So highest result is a 6.
A 6. Okay, so you succeed with no real consequences. I think what happens here, you are looking down the staircase and you can sort of see, do you want to, I guess I'll give you the agency on this part here. So with your retrocognition, is it sort of a rewind situation where you see the end state and then you rewind to the beginning, or is it played forward? You see from the beginning to the end?
I think both of those sound very cool, But I think it's it's almost like you're sort of standing there watching the event from start to finish, if that makes sense.
Sure.
So
Yeah. So I'm
forward rather
imagining
than back.
like you're looking down the stairs, but your perception is sort of broad, and you're almost hovering above yourself, and you can see a sort of third person perspective of what's happening here. And
Yes.
I think at first things are really fast forwarding through a normal day at the Golden Oaks Retirement Center. But as you're fast forwarding through things, you notice that there is a person who catches your eye. Maybe they have a little bit of an aura around them. Maybe you're just really well trained to notice things that stick out. But one way or another, there's this masculine figure who is walking down the hallway with this sort of unnatural gait. Old folks often, their decreased mobility means that they're shuffling more often. This is not what that situation is. This person is walking almost as if in a trance, and he comes down the hallway. He comes to the door, and you can see he reaches out and the door opens without any key or anything. And then he stands at the top of the stairs for a few moments, and then he just tilts himself forward and tumbles all the way down the stairs. We get to the bottom of the stairs. He's lying there for a little while, and then there isn't an alarm system in the retirement complex per se, but you can hear the sort of psychic energy of people in an emergency state rushing to respond to this. And that's when the vision fades for you.
Oh, bloody hell. Yeah, so he kind of hurries on down the stairs. Ugh.
All right. So you hurry down the stairs, and the two of you are left at the top of the stairs. Is there any reaction that you two have as this happens, or are you just sort of waiting to see how it plays out?
I mean, we didn't see that, or did we?
You didn't see the vision, but you did see your colleague say bloody hell and then head down the
Yeah.
stairs.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I would rush after him.
Mm-hmm.
If it seems like he saw something, then he might also be in danger. So
And if it's all right, I feel like Oscar would have gone like ahead, like he just would have sort of barreled down and like just
sure.
sort of like do and not even notice.
Sure. So the picture then is you are maybe already down at the foot of the stairs, and then Agent Oxford sees this vision. You hear him say from the top of the stairs, "Bloody hell," and come down to join you. And then Agent Grease follows hot on Agent Oxford's heels, and so you get to the bottom of the stairs. Agent Oxford, do you want to make like a quick revelation, and then we'll do our break?
Yes, seems like these accidents are a bit nastier than we were informed. Residents have been throwing themselves down. It's not a short fall, especially when you're elderly. I do hope that man is all right, but I have a suspicion that he may not be.
All right, so you all are sort of letting this information settle in. You've got your first real clue for the investigation here. And at this point, we're going to take our commercial break. So everybody who's watching so far, we're going to try to keep this limited to just a 5-minute break. So tune in, skip forward in the video if you want to, and we will be gathered back together. Once again, thanks for joining, folks. We are External Containment Bureau. We are kickstarting in the month of February. Let me remind myself when we close, February 23rd. So you've got until then to jump on board and experience this game for yourself. Until then, we're going to take our short break. All right, everyone, welcome back. We are here for the next segment of the External Containment Bureau actual play with our wonderful guest players. When we last left, we had found our first clue in the paranormal investigation. Someone who seemed to be in a trance fell down the stairs and leading to the basement, I should say. So, exciting and dangerous times here at Golden Oaks Retirement Center. We are all three agents are now down at the bottom of the stairs as well. And I think we resume with the agents quietly discussing among themselves what this might be, when all of a sudden you hear from a room further into the maintenance basement, someone says, hey, what's going on out there? Who's there? And then around the corner, you see this person come through, thin, wearing a maintenance jumpsuit, very similar to your own, but, different branding, balding on top and looking really superstitious at you. The jumpsuit has seen a lot of wear and tear, and you just get the sense that this person is kind of over the whole work thing, right? It hasn't worked out in all these years on the job, and it just doesn't seem like it's going to work out, and that changes a person. And so this person comes around and is like, you're not the maintenance staff here. What are you doing?
No, you must be Joshua, right?
Yeah. Who told you my name's Joshua?
Ellie, the lovely lady from the reception. We are here from a private different company. We were asked to come here to fix a special problem, but we were hoping that you could help us a little bit since you already know the place and that kind of stuff.
You're from a private different company here to inspect a special problem?
Effectively, yes.
Do you have ID that I could see to verify your credentials, or am I just supposed to trust a stranger here?
We have our cover identities, right?
You do at the very least. I actually haven't looked at everybody else's sheet to know.
I have like a CIA badge, which I don't think is very useful in this
Right.
context.
Yeah, they just have a gun, Agent Grease.
I would say,
Okay.
I would say if Agent Grease were to flash the old CIA badge, they would certainly be making a statement and would probably get a door open for them, but it might have complications down the road too. So if that's what you want to do, we can certainly do
Honestly,
that.
I'm very down for that.
Okay.
Do you want to? Yeah. The other option is Agent Oxford does have an actual cover identity that we could use, but use the CIA badge. That'd be really funny.
Yeah. So I think that I'm still smiling, right? And I'm just going to go through my pocket and show the CIA badge and leave it like there for a couple of seconds so Joshua can actually see what it is.
Yeah. So Joshua's eyes, their whole head sort of what and looks forward at this badge and scrutinizes it as much as they can, and then they go ugh and roll their eyes, and they say, "Oscar called you, didn't he?"
Who?
Yeah. What's the reaction there?
Me? You
No, Oscar Green. He's a resident here. He's got a goatee. He.
Oh, I just thought, because that's, never mind.
And it's conspicuous to you. Somebody with a goatee introduced themselves as Herman Green, but you don't know an Oscar Green here yet. And so he's like, look, did Oscar put you up to this? I feel like you, or I'm sorry, they. They're like, did Oscar put you up to this? I feel like they're probably blowing smoke.
No worries. Although we take Oscar's concerns very seriously, we are actually we were issued here for different reasons, and we are sure that we can cooperate in the best interest of everyone.
Sure. So I do want to randomize this outcome a little bit and see how that goes. So let's build an action pool here and see what kind of outcome we get. I'm going to say that this is risky. It's certainly not it's not gold standard cover identity, for you to
No.
flash CIA involvement with this investigation.
It has worked in the past.
Mm-hmm.
It might work now.
Mm-hmm. So let's see. Doing this like a trained agent, I think that's pretty debatable. Can you justify it with something else?
I think that I am used to handling these sort of situations, and although my methods may not be the most conventional, the way that I'm conducting myself to be as non-threatening and as clean as possible with this could arguably be an agent behavior.
Sure, you could have flashed your gun, but you flashed your badge instead. That sort of situation. Okay, yeah. I'll count that. I'll say that this is trained agent, but barely. Now, do you have a relevant background here?
My background is as a CIA agent. I don't think that comes up here.
I mean, at the very least, you know how to behave like a CIA agent.
Yeah.
Okay, and then any relevant standard or special issue gear that you can bring to bear?
Well, the badge in this case.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, yeah, an expired CIA badge. There it is. Oh, but I notice it's expired. Good to know. Okay.
I thought you knew.
So, last question here. Will you draw on paranormal powers for this, or energy, I should say?
Yeah.
Okay. So, are you using your power of precognition, or are you just sort of making use of the ambient paranormal energy?
I think in this case, it's going to be more just like the ambient paranormal energy I can draw from.
Okay, so you will gain a die, and you will mark one resonance, but otherwise there's no special ability that's included there. So I think you're rolling a full 4-dice pool right now.
Yeah, it seems like it.
Okay, cool. And let's go ahead and roll and see what the outcome is here.
So I don't have a base dice, right? So I'm rolling just 4.
I believe so, yes, yeah.
So that's a 1, a 2, a 4, and a 6.
Another 6. Okay, well, full success. Let's see how this goes. So Joshua looks at your badge and scrutinizes it as having this little conversation with you. And then something comes over them, and they seem to really get what's happening. And immediately they get more tight-lipped. They're still suspicious, but they're like, okay, look, I feel uncomfortable interacting with the CIA. So let me just point you in the direction where you're supposed to go, and I'll leave you to it. Okay, look, and they pull out their keys, and they're like, it's a lot of keys, but you can just borrow these. And you can use them and just bring them back to me by the end of the day. Does that work for you?
That sounds excellent, Joshua. I really, really appreciate it.
Yeah. Here you go. Like, arm's length gives them to you, and then they're like, okay, I have an office here. If it's an emergency, let me know. Otherwise, and then they just go into the office and close the door. So you've got,
I like them.
No nonsense. So you've got these keys.
Mm-hmm.
You're looking down the basement hallway here, and it's typical. Like I said, cinder block construction. There's some machinery, access panels, ductwork, that sort of thing. And it is dim. It's dimly lit. So how do you want to proceed with an investigation at this point? Is the basement even your goal? Are you going to immediately turn around and go back upstairs now? Or like what's the approach right now? And I'll add, remember that right now we're in the investigate phase, so your goal overall is to find clues to help you understand what's going on.
I think maybe like if we want to have a little discussion about kind of if anyone has any experience with similar stuff that was seen with the guy like throwing himself down the stairs, is that something that, for example, like we might have encountered in a previous mission or we might have read about?
Sure. So maybe referring to previous records or something like that.
Yeah,
I think so. Agent Oxford is in the records department.
exactly. That was
And
what I was thinking.
sure, and your department permission could be relevant here if you want to go through that.
Yeah, so once permission, I can draw a wild connection between the current threat and a similar phenomenon in the Bureau's records. No matter the details, it always holds a kernel of truth. Now, I don't know if that's I come up with a wild thing or whether you as the GM come up with a wild thing. Um,
That's a good question. So there is a predefined paranormal entity at work here,
mm,
but that last bit of the permission, no matter the details, it always holds a kernel of truth. I'm comfortable with you coming up with whatever you want here, and then I can find a way to weave that in, or I could just give you a clue that would tie into something that's going on.
um, I mean, I feel like maybe you just giving a clue might be better.
Sure.
Um,
Sure. So, what we know about this case so far is that people have been getting disoriented and looking at stairwells. And then we also know that at least one person has fallen down this stairwell after seemingly moving toward it in a trance. So, you're referring to case records and that sort of thing. And there is a lot of documentation about different cases that have had disorienting effects, different cases that have had compulsory effects, and you're having a hard time finding anything that really feels like the same vibe. And then you realize there was this case a while ago about a paranormal entity that was in fact a dangerous arrival into the mundane world and had to be sent back for the safety of the people in the area around the event. And that was very much sort of a lure situation. This one happened in Scotland, and there were people who late at night were disappearing after leaving bars and clubs. And it was found that there was this entity hanging out in darkened alleys near these clubs and was sort of like an anglerfish, sort of luring people back and then disappearing them. And it doesn't seem like people have disappeared here as far as you know. You would have thought that that would be in the documentation, but there is at least evidence that there are malicious entities that compel people to do things that harm them.
yeah, I think he would say like, well, I've never heard of a case quite like this before, but back in the old home country, there was a similar case of an entity with obviously malicious intent. I think it would be hard to argue from what I've seen that whoever or whatever it is that is possessing or entrancing these people doesn't have intent to harm. So perhaps that is something that we should be kind of looking for. I'm not entirely sure why it's also associated with this basement, or even if it is. But that's the case that I'm familiar with, at least.
So I think the thought percolates among you all. I just noticed actually, Ray, you had unmuted. Were you going to say something?
No, go ahead.
So the thought sort of percolates among all of you. This is maybe a malicious entity. It maybe wants to harm us, and we should respond accordingly, right? Take appropriate precautions. You also have a little bit of a direction to go here. Maybe the theory is that there's something about this basement that's going on, but we don't know right away. Now, Agent Oscar, you are with the sanitation department, so you are one of the best suited folks to be able to determine what needs to happen for proper safety in this thing. Is there anything in particular that you want to do to go about that right now, or are you still sort of collecting information?
I want to see what else is in the basement. I want to investigate the lights that are flickering, and also just sort of just to see what else is down here and why, if there's any other reason why they're like all scared or whatnot, and fix their lights if I can fix their lights.
Of course, yeah. I mean, you do have some practical skills after all, so. Okay, cool. So let's build an investigation roll for you as well here. We've got, I think, so as you're going about this, what does it look like? Are you dropping the pretense of inspection and you're just an agent investigating, or are you trying to maintain the cover identity, or what?
I think Oscar's pretty systematic about this. So I imagine him with his flashlight out and just sort of like flashing down maybe to the blood stain where the person actually fell, and then going through sort of like the switches and just sort of keeping their eye on stuff and examining the electrical of the building and stuff like that, basically.
Okay.
I think this is what Oscar does, right? He sort of send in to clean things up, but also to sort of like find the nitty gritty as opposed to like the theory or past attempts. So I think he's really doing sort of like the legwork here.
Okay, sure. All right, so I think then this is pretty playing it safe. You're doing things like when you said you were flipping switches, I thought maybe you're not being super cautious about this, but that's open to your interpretation.
No. Oscar's a professional.
Okay, of course. All right, cool. So definitely playing it safe. I think also this would be typical for being a trained agent, so you can go ahead and start off with a die there. Is your background relevant here?
I mean, I'm a former U.S. Marine, maybe in terms of, entry breach, but no, I think it's a bit of a stretch, to be honest.
Sure. I mean, if you're actually posing as a handyman and intending to do handyman things, then I think the Marine stuff isn't super applicable. So
sure.
Yeah.
I was a janitor in the Marines.
Right. It is a broad category, right? You could have been a janitor, but so do you have any standard or special issue gear that would help you out here?
I think I do. I have a cleanup kit, which I don't know maybe, but I do have a skeleton key. I don't know if either of those things help me, or my practical jumpsuit. So it's just a +1D for being discreet.
I think the skeleton key could help you maybe access strange areas in the basement or locked off areas in the basement, but based on your description, it didn't sound like you were really looking for secret or restricted areas. You were kind of just going through and taking stock of the situation, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Then maybe that doesn't really apply either. And so the last question, are you going to draw on any paranormal powers for this?
Nah, not yet. I think I'm just going to roll the 1 dice and see what happens.
Okay, let's see how it goes.
Yeah, 4.
A 4?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're looking for a clue here. And I think because you are the sanitation team, you are flipping switches, you're trying to get an assessment of the situation, but you're maybe thinking along the lines of how do we contain this? How do we make sure that it gets cleaned up and everything? So I think you are looking through whatever, flipping switches, inspecting light fixtures, making sure the bulbs are all screwed in and everything. You get down off of this step ladder and you turn around and there's a trash can in the corner, big plastic Rubbermaid thing that's got the black trash bag in it and everything. It's a maintenance trash bag. And there isn't much trash inside. It looks like it was taken out maybe this morning, but down at the bottom of the trash can, you see that there's something that might have been misplaced, fell out or whatever. It's this old doll, the kind of thing that you would expect to find in an abandoned house that has had a lot of deterioration. It's got an eye missing. It's got some paint from its porcelain that's chipping away. The fabric is clearly gotten very thin over the years. Moths have eaten it here and there. And it's conspicuous. And I think you notice this doll and you feel this intense wave of vertigo. The doll and the trash can are further into the maintenance basement, right? There's just this intense vertigo and you sort of close your eyes and you're rubbing your temple and you open them up, and you are not standing where you were. You are standing at the base of the stairs, looking straight at the ground. And you sort of come to and you realize what's happening here, and you realize where you are. For you other two, you saw Agent Oscar go off down into the basement, looking around, tinkering with stuff, and then you just saw him rubbing his temples and walking past you as if he didn't even realize you were there. And then he stopped at the stairwell. It was a little weird. Like this might raise a red flag in terms of Bureau investigation for you. So I want to know first, Agent Oscar, what's your immediate reaction when you come to and you've had a situation like this?
Shit. That's basically it. And it's like, the hell?
Found it. And then you other two, you watch this happen. What's your first response?
Oh wait, one more thing. I'm gonna drop the doll down. I'll like throw the doll down the stairwell.
Oh
instead.
sure. So you picked up the doll and you were holding it, and then like, okay. So I was picturing you were down at the bottom of the stairwell, but if you'd prefer to be at the top, that's fine too. And then you can throw the doll down the stairs that way.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I imagine that like I sort of hallucinated or zombie stepped to the edge, but I guess it was, yeah. Was it like where were you imagining?
Like I was imagining, we've got the stair situation. You came to the base of the stairs and were staring at the place where the guy fell down, like where he landed.
Oh,
but if you prefer to be at the top, that's equally compelling narratively as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, let's do the latter then. I like went all the way back up and like stood at the edge.
Okay, cool. So then maybe even a little more unnerving for the other agents. You see walking up to the top of the stairs and then standing Agent Oxford. You would notice in particular exactly the way that resident was standing before he took a tumble.
Yeah, I think like that does slightly change things, just because seeing him like starting to walk up the stairs, Agent Oxford will have this immediate reaction of, oh god, he's going to throw himself down the stairs. Like, rather than trying to stop him, because you're not supposed to, interfere with someone that's in a trance. It's a bit like sleepwalking. Kind of look over at Grease and be like, do you want to just stand under there and try and catch him?
Sure. But first, and then I think that since I'm seeing that Oscar is walking a little slowly, I'm concerned, but I also want to take the opportunity to see if like there's some, I don't know if I can sense this energy, but like whatever might be manipulating him or influencing him, if there's any leftover, any traces of that energy around the place or around him, or if there's like any way we can get any information from that.
Yeah, so I'm thinking that maybe your power is relevant here. You can see what Agent Oscar is doing, and your power might allow you to see what could happen if no interference occurs. Like if you... Yeah,
that's interesting.
Okay, cool. So what I would say, your power, you mark 1 resonance to figure out what's going to happen in the next few moments. If you mark 2 resonance, then you get to know about something that will happen in the next few minutes. So I'll let you decide which one of those is more interesting to you.
I think in this case, it's more interesting to know what will happen in the next few minutes, because in the next few moments, we can safely assume he's going to throw himself down the stairway. But like what happens after that, right? Like we didn't saw, like Oxford didn't saw that in the vision, so it might be useful to see what an after state to that will be.
Sure. And I'll say that, so that's you marking 2 resonance then. And I will say that we don't need to roll for this one. We can just say that as Agent Oscar is shuffling up the stairs, you are following behind at Agent Oxford's instruction to make sure that Oscar doesn't fall down. But you're also using your paranormal abilities to predict and see, am I actually going to have to catch this guy, right? So I think what you know, and I think Agent Oscar, you said that you get to the top of the stairs and then you throw the doll down the stairs, right?
Yeah, once
Okay.
I come to. Also, like maybe I walk up the stairs kind of like backwards, and like real.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That's Creep Town. I like it.
Real creepy, yeah.
Uh-huh. Okay, cool. So, as this is happening, Agent Grease, you are watching this going on, and you can see also that there's almost a shadow image going ahead of Agent Oscar up the stairs. And you can see Agent Oscar is going to get up there, turn around, throw the doll down the stairs, and then you feel more than see, I think, that as soon as everyone is not looking at that doll, it is going to disappear. You know that. Here's an interesting question. With your precognition, do you think it's the sort of thing that. No, I'm not going to ask this question. I'm going to tell you. The precognition will happen. At some point, all three of you will neglect to look at the doll, and it will disappear. If you want that to change, you can redact it, which is the resistance style mechanic for External Containment Bureau.
Yeah, and like playing off the theme of resonance here, I think that when I use the precognition, I sort of see things as if they were through a spectrogram. So on one layer, I am seeing Oscar going up the stairs, but then I also see kind of like waves of harmonics that kind of make like sound around his actions. And then when he throws the doll, I can still see like the very bright spot of the doll being there, kind of like hit, and then like suddenly dying down, and that's how I know that it's going to disappear.
The only thing I will change about that is that instead of the doll being a bright spot, I think the doll is a dark spot in your vision. And so it's clear that
Cool.
there's something paranormal about this doll.
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't work the same as other objects.
Yeah. So, yeah, all this plays out. Agent Oscar, you come to at the top of the stairs. Agent Grease, you are just beneath him, waiting to hold and knowing that this doll is paranormal and is about to disappear when somebody doesn't look at it. Agent Oxford, are you down at the bottom of the stairs at this point, or what are you doing?
I think he's sort of downstairs and okay, spooky dolls. As the doll like hits the floor, he's like, I'm pretty sure there's a solid like 4 chapters in this occult manual that I have about spooky dolls. Hang on, let me try and get a reference. Oh, I hate spooky dolls.
Don't stop looking at it.
What was that, Emma?
Don't stop looking at it. I shout to Agent Oxford.
What if I don't look at it? Is it going to attack me?
No, it's just going to disappear. So just keep looking at it.
I think actually that's the moment. I think you maybe get that out just too late, Agent Grease. And Agent Oxford already had his nose in a book, and he's like, wait, don't look at it. And then you look, and it's gone.
Oh, God. Damn it. Okay, I am still gonna like look and see if I can like find a reference in the occult manual.
Sure. So let's do a quick action roll for that, because using this occult manual in such a paranormal place might have some very weird consequences. So let's see here. I think this is risky territory. It's not necessarily that you're doing this against the book, but things are paranormal. There is an active paranormal event right here, right now. So we're in risky territory. I do think this is typical for a trained agent of the Bureau. The impulse to research makes sense to me. And then let's talk about your background and gear and paranormal powers. What sort of stuff are you applying?
I think, honestly, all of these except for the paranormal powers would apply, right? Like a librarian, like looking at a book to find something out, having this occult manual. And then also, I will say, as a player, I really want to use those occult powers because I really want to get another power, but actually, in character, I don't think that that's something that really applies here, and I don't necessarily know whether he would use it because it's just a simple lookup.
Sure. Well, something that I forgot to mention in the original pitch at the beginning of this video is that the resistance mechanic in the game, redaction, is paranormal in nature. So if you want to, you can say anything in the game doesn't happen, or we don't know about it because officially the information had to be redacted. But when you do that, you gain resonance. So the two ways that you can gain resonance and get closer to getting new powers are either using paranormal powers in the moment or resisting and changing the outcome of something. And
Okay.
that latter actually leads you to it a little faster in my experience too. So if you want to, then we can say you've got these 3 dice, trained agent, background, and gear, and then we can let things happen as they may after that.
All right. I'll roll the dice. Okay, that's 3 5s.
3 5s. Okay, so we do have some consequences though. So I think you're looking through this book on dolls, creepy dolls, right? And you're referencing the chapters, you're flipping back and forth.
I want to say also I might be looking specifically at like British Isles related references, not because I know of this connection with the Scottish case.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that would be more difficult, like if that's completely wrong or not, but that's where he would go first.
Sure. Yeah. Well, that's informative. That's good to know. So I think what's going to happen here, you are going to get a clue. You are looking through here and you find that these sort of paranormal entities tend to fixate on given locations. And this particular paranormal entity was first sighted next to a garbage can. So that is information that you can tuck away and count on as being a reliable clue in this situation. I think also I'll give you an additional clue because that's kind of building on a previous clue. So the genuinely new clue here is that you find out that when a paranormal entity manifests as a doll, the entity tends to fixate not only on an object but also on people. So there may be people in this retirement complex who have had experiences with dolls in the building, and that would be worth following up on. The trouble that happens here, and this is something that I added as a result of Ray's complication earlier as well. The mission clock is going to advance. So right now we're at 2 of 6 for our mission clock. If we get to 3, there will be a development that you all notice. So we're getting close to that. And I think otherwise, you're flipping through here, you're cross-referencing this stuff. You yourself get a little disoriented, but you sort of notice it happening, and I think you slam the book shut right away. So you realize that this is a really sensitive topic, and the investigation from here on out would benefit from care.
Okay. Well, I think I will convey that to the group in as few words as possible. Any thoughts?
Oscar is going to take out his sack lunch. Be like, I think it's time for early lunch. I don't know about y'all. And he's going to go up to the, I guess, the cafeteria or just maybe outside, wherever people are lounging, and he's going to start eating his lunch. But my intention here is to sort of engage in conversation with some of the retirement folk and to see if we can get some more clues that way too.
Certainly, yeah. So you are heading out to do that. You other 2 agents, are you going to continue to inspect the basement, or are you going to join that effort? How do you want to respond?
I would really love to hear some stories from Herman.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think that Oxford would like to continue to poke around the basement. I think that would be an interesting development narratively too.
To separate, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that's what's going to happen unless anyone kind of speaks up against it.
I mean, I would be slightly concerned.
You have
But it's up
protocols
to
in
you.
place, check-ins
Yeah.
and what have you. It'll be fine, right?
Yes, not to worry. I've seen all this before, right? I'm just going to go look around a few more corners, just check a few loose ends, nothing too big,
Sure.
nothing too important. Don't worry.
Sure. I'll leave the door a little open, just in case.
Yes, I'm sure it won't immediately slam.
And I'm sure you're given the keys that Joshua gave out to folks so that you've got those down in the basement in case you need them. I want to jump over and look at what agents Oscar and Grease are doing with the residents, and then we'll jump back and see how you've been handling the suspense in the meantime. So agents Oscar and Grease, you head out, you're going to like a cafeteria area. It's a hot day, so there aren't very many people outside. Most of the people are in the indoor cafeteria facility. And I know, Agent Grease, you in particular are interested in questioning Herman Green. So you all walk in, and fortunately enough, he's right there. He's sitting at a table by himself. He's eating a sandwich really miserably, just continuing to look over his shoulders and what have you. And that's the scene. So how do you insert yourselves into it?
Oh, hi, Mr. Herman with one N. Would you mind some company?
Herman, my name's... Oh, yeah, I remember. Yeah, Herman is right with just the one N. Yeah. Did you see it?
I saw many things, Mr. Herman.
I've looked into it. The brain chemicals, they're making us see things. The government wants to control us.
As I dig into my sack lunch, like pull out like a bag of Lay's crisps or something.
I think Mr. Green looks over at you and he's like, "That's a good idea. We gotta cover up any hidden microphones that might be going on here."
I am very interested though. What did you saw exactly down there? Have you gone there yourself? Do you know anyone who has gone there?
Oh, I don't go near that basement. Basements creep me out, but especially now. Oh, no, not with those visions telling me I should. Never. I'd never do it.
And when did you start having these visions?
Well, let's see here. I woke up last week, middle of the night, went to the bathroom like I do, and, I just felt dizzy, which isn't out of the ordinary, I guess, but it felt different. You know, you can tell when it's just your body versus when it's the chemicals. And let me tell you, it was the chemicals. I saw. Oh, sorry, I'm getting carried away. So I got up and I went to the bathroom and I was washing my hands, and there's that little wastebasket right next to my sink, and I saw this. Well, back in when I was a kid on the farm, my sister used to make corn husk dolls, and it looked just like it, made out of old raggedy corn husk and just barely looking like a person. It was weird. I threw it away. I put it in the trash can. But I keep thinking about it. Like, why would a hallucination be something I could pick up and put in the trash can?
In the trash can of your bathroom, in your room.
Well, sure. I wasn't going to walk out into the hallway naked.
Of course. So, is this the same doll that we saw down there, or is he describing a different doll?
Looks very different. The doll that you saw down there it had a porcelain face, it had fabric clothing. The doll he's describing is purely made out of corn husk.
Yeah.
So, I hear your name is Oscar too.
Two? Are you?
No. Oh yeah, Oscar.
Your name is Oscar.
My man.
What is he sort of recoils at first, and he's like, "Oh, is this the thing the kids are doing?"
Yeah, just go with it. Just trust me.
Do we punch each other? Oh, ow. Well.
Hey, listen. My friends, they're kind of spooky-ish, but we're gonna get down to this right quick. Don't you worry. This spooky dookie, it's kind of what we do.
Spooky dookie, yeah, okay.
I believe you, man.
You can see him kind of starting to withdraw, And I think we're going to need to make some type of roll, either one or both of you together, to try and open him back up again. Something about the conversation so far has got him locked up.
I got it.
Okay.
So I'm gonna be like, hey, want to see something cool? And I'm gonna like levitate his sandwich out of his head.
Okay, so let's go through it. Let's. I think that this is. I think that this is probably danger close. This is pretty unorthodox here in the public cafeteria, talking to a guy who's clearly paranoid. We're playing it danger close here. I think this is not how a trained agent would do it. Is your background or gear relevant here?
Well, I feel like maybe the way I'm fraternizing with them is the way we used to do it down in the USMC.
Oh, sure. Yeah, real brash. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. So, and you get the impression that this guy has maybe had some sort of military service himself. We'll say that. So, sure, it's sort of a peer communication situation there.
I think that's it. I mean, I'm using my carefully packed lunch, but there's no bonus for that. So
Is there any kind of cooperation in this game that we can use, or
I'm sorry. Can you say that again?
is there any kind of cooperation for roles that we can use in this game?
We don't have any at the moment, but if you want to try and smooth over this situation, maybe like making sure no one else is paying attention, then I could grant maybe the trained agent die to Ray after all.
That sounds fair. Sure.
Okay. So what does it look like then as you're trying to manage the perception of what's happening here?
I'm not sure if it would be more of a paranormal thing that I would do to try to like veil sandwich situation a little bit,
Sure.
or if it's just more in maybe I try to approach someone and like cover it with our bodies. Like I don't know what makes the most sense here.
I like the paranormal idea. I'm all about swinging for the fences for these, powers, getting resonance increased and getting more powers, that sort of thing.
Me too.
Cool. So yeah, let's say that you are using your paranormal energies somehow, not a specific power, but just drawing on the energies to obscure in some
So
way.
like attract people gazes from that specific point.
Right. And so I think what you should do is mark a resonance for that. And then Ray, you don't need to mark. Well, no, you'll mark one as well because you're using a power 2.
okay.
And I think like special issue gear, you do have a packed lunch, but I thought you were doing this to his lunch, right?
Yeah, definitely doing two.
Okay, cool. So then you get 3 dice, I think: trained agent, relevant background, and paranormal powers.
Yeah, I got a 4.
A 4.
4, 3.
Okay. Gotcha. So this is interesting. He I think picks up on the camaraderie that you're trying to build with him here. He recognizes that these sort of antics without the paranormal layer are something that happens in military lunchrooms or whatever. And so he opens up again. But I think
Ketchup from the mayo.
he's like, well, that ain't the damnedest trick I've ever seen. But I think as a result, with this being danger close, we are going to tick 2 mission ticks here. So we're now at 4 out of 6. And if you'd like to redact that, I can reduce it to just 1 tick.
No, it's all right. Let's see what happens.
Okay.
What happens when we reach the end of the clock?
I'm sorry?
What happens when we reach the end of the clock?
When we reach the end of the clock, something bad happens. It's basically what you hope will be avoided by investigating and containing the situation.
Okay, maybe I want to redact that in that case.
Okay, sure. So you can do that, and basically what we're going to do here is make a redaction roll. So you can redact almost any fictional consequence, so long as it is... Oh, that's an outdated mechanic. Never mind. You're going to build a dice pool for every point of resonance that you have. So you've got 4. So you roll 4 dice, and then we'll describe what happens instead.
but I also mark resonance from that, or do I do that afterwards?
You do, yeah. So you roll
cool.
dice, and then based on the outcome, we'll decide how much resonance you
Okay.
need to add.
Awesome. So that's a 2, a 4, a 5, and another 5.
A 5. Okay, so 5 is the highest, which means that you're going to increase your resonance by 2.
Oops.
And then that maxes you out, right? Yeah. Okay, cool. So
and everything.
I'm going to handle the consequence first, right? Your efforts at first to use paranormal energies to obscure what was happening didn't quite work. Enough people in the cafeteria saw that there was going to be a hard to contain situation. Now that you've redacted it, there are still some people who saw. So we're still going to mark one checkbox here, but it's a much more containable situation. The fallout from this is going to be easier for you to cover up later on. And then as a result, you have maxed out your resonance track. So you are going to reset it down to 0. And then your power level track, which is just underneath there, you'll click the second power level. So you're now at power level 2. And then you'll get to click the drop-down list and look through the different powers that are available and pick a new one of those. And folks who are watching this video can't see this character sheet. You will be able to as soon as the Kickstarter launches. Just head to our Quick Start guide and you'll see all the information there. But the Quick Start guide has a partial list of powers. All told, I think we've got 16 to 20 powers. And the Quick Start guide includes, I want to say like 10 or 12 of those as examples. So, yeah, go ahead and pick whichever power you want. But Ray, we're going to jump back to you. Is there a last thing you want to say, maybe to like hammer home that you're calming down Mr. Green?
I think what Oscar is going to say is be like, yeah, so don't worry about the spooky doopy. We got that on lock here.
Perfect. And then I think something happens. So we've got our third tick on the mission clock, and that means that we've hit our first major milestone, and things are getting a little out of control right now. Both Agents Oscar and Agent Grease at the same time fumble in some way. There's a subtle accident. You trip, you knock something off of a shelf, something like that. So tell us, and then at the same time, down in the basement, Agent Oxford also has some sort of light slip up like that. So whether it's, your pen falls off the table, or whether it's you bump your knee on something, tell me what happens with each one of you. We'll start with Agent Oscar.
Okay, so Agent Oscar is using his telekinesis to disassemble the sandwich that our friend Oscar Herman is eating. So I imagine that, it kind of splits apart, and he's like, look, I can separate the mayo and the ketchup. And then maybe the tomato kind of goes and it flies out. And as it's flying out, he's like, see, I'm certified. And he reaches out to try and grab the tomato, but then kind of falls out of his chair and just hits him, just falls on his ass while he's reaching for the flying tomato.
Almost eats it. Cool. Yeah. Like you steady yourself with one hand and you're like, oh, tomato, don't get away from me. Something like that. Yeah. That sounds good. Agent Grease, what about you?
I think that following up on that idea, I have this watch around me, and it's usually a little loose, but I see it fall suddenly.
Mm-hmm.
But it's kind of a weird fall. It's almost like if it was a feather. And for a few seconds, I'm just enthralled, watching this thing not quite react to gravity as I would expect. And that itself leads me to trip a little bit against the wall or something like that.
Sure. Yeah,
it's almost like a vertigo just from seeing this very unnatural thing happening.
Cool. So both of you have this conspicuous moment of clumsiness or a subtle accident or something like that. And I think both of you sort of look at each other, raise eyebrows maybe, and realize what's going on. And then we cut to the basement where Agent Oxford is conducting a bit of an investigation. Now, regardless of whatever you were doing, what is this little slip up that happens around you?
Yeah, I think he has like his torch out, like looking around. Um, and I think maybe like he falls and the torch is like yanked out of his hand, or falls out of his hand and hits the floor, and maybe the batteries come out and
Ah,
it just, the light just goes out.
okay. Are we talking like pitch black down there, or are the overhead lights still on and flickering a little bit?
I mean, that's up to you. I'm well up for pitch black if you are.
Sure, sure. Because it's a subtle thing this time, I think
Yeah.
we'll say that the overhead lights are still on, but maybe your eyes were adjusted to the flashlight, and so it's a little
Yeah.
hard. It takes a little bit for you to adjust.
Yeah, perfect.
Cool. And then you've been in the basement investigating. What have you been up to?
I think he'd have done two things. Firstly, he would have looked around for any other like entrances and exits to the basement, like another set of stairwells,
Hmm.
and kind of like looked around and like gone to the next one he found and kind of like looked up and used his like retrocognition again to kind of see if there have been any more accidents.
Oh, so you're doubling down on the staircase investigation.
Mm.
Cool. Okay. Yeah. Let's see what we can find out here. I think let's build a dice pool then, so we know what you're doing. It seems to me like you've continued to do things more or less by the book, but you're by yourself. So I think that balances out to being a risky position.
Yep.
And let us then build the dice pool from there. What sort of things are you bringing to bear? And I'll just let you go through the list on your own.
I think here, I think he's definitely put his occult manual away, feeling like getting it out in this situation when he knows that there's some kind of an entity is just sort of asking for trouble. So he doesn't have that out. He has, I think he's acting in a way that's typical for a trained agent. It's following up any loose threads and trying to figure out what's happened. And he's using a paranormal power. So I feel like it's 2 dice.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense to me. So let's roll and see how that turns out.
Well, one of them's on the floor, which is always good.
It happens at least once every game. Here we are.
It's
Everybody
yeah.
mark experience.
It is a 2, and on the floor it's a 3.
Okay, so not a great outcome then.
No.
Too bad. And we're risky too, huh?
And we're on our own.
Yeah, let's see. So you have failed. I'm going to say you don't come up with a clue this time. But you find yourself facing quite a situation. So you go and you do your retrocognition. You're trying to find a moment previously when someone else fell down these stairs. And all that you're getting from this retrocognition is a feeling of gravity. There is this pull that is focused on this stairwell somehow. But at the moment, that focus is not sharp. It's a very fuzzy kind of focus. And so there's some element here at the staircase that is missing that is keeping the paranormal event from realizing at this exact moment. But you can tell there's like a very strong sense of gravity pulling things to this staircase. And at the same time, it's not sharp, but somewhere, you can't tell where, there is a real sense of malevolence in this building.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah. And the trouble here is that this is a bad outcome. So I'm going to tick 2 more boxes, which means that we are 1 box away from having the worst case scenario for our investigation. You can, of course, redact that if you want.
I mean, what do we think? Like throwing this out, I'm very happy to have it be like 1 tick away from terrible, but I'm also happy to redact a tick. Like,
I think whatever what we do, it's going to get there anyway. So it's fun if we try to avoid it,
okay,
to avoid the inevitable.
I can try and redact that then.
Yeah,
We
so
will be taking away 1 tick, right? If you redact.
yes, and here's what I'll say. So, looking at your character sheet, did you mark the resonance for your retrocognition this time?
I did, yeah.
Okay, gotcha. So you're dealing with 2 resonance, and to redact, you are going to build a dice pool for every point of resonance that you have. So this is 2 dice. And now go ahead and roll those, and we'll see how it turns out.
Oh, well, great. I rolled a 6.
Okay. So
3 and a 6.
you don't gain any additional resonance then, which is a little too bad because earlier I told you like resonance is or resistance redaction is the best way to get resonance, and here you are not getting any. But good news, I will say that we actually don't see what really terrible thing happens. So here's what was going to happen. You were going to be, and actually, no. What does happen, you're in this stairwell, you're feeling the gravity, you're feeling the malevolence, and then all of a sudden, overhead in the stairwell, there's a single light that bursts and glass shatters all over you. So you realize that this place is a bad place to be. If I may suggest, you go up the stairs and report this to the cafeteria where your colleagues are.
Sure.
While you were gone, there was going to be an accident on this stairwell. But because you redacted it, we'll say that doesn't happen. Or it doesn't happen at least right now.
Okay.
And at this point, it's been about another hour since we played, so I want to take another quick 5-minute break. It's 20 after, according to my watch, so let's plan to meet at 25 after, shall we?
Fantastic.
Cool.
Sounds good.
Yep.
All right, we'll be back, folks. All right, everybody, welcome back to our final act of External Containment Bureau, a game that is live on Kickstarter until Tuesday, February 23rd, 2021. If you like us, head over there and back it. It's going to be a lot of fun. Okay, so we have done a lot of investigation so far. We found out that there are weird dolls involved. The staircase has got something going on with it. There are people who have theories going on. There seems to be some awareness at the retirement center that things are not normal. And we've heard some accounts of paranormal activities. I think at this point, we are about ready to try our theorize roll to move into the obscure and contain portion of gameplay. So when you're ready to form a theory, answer each of these following questions using the clues that you've gathered so far. What is the phenomenon? How can the phenomenon be contained? And how will you obfuscate the phenomenon from the general public? So all three of you, we know that Agent Oxford just recently came up the stairs, is probably still picking glass off of his jacket, and has arrived in the cafeteria where he sees Agents Oscar and Grease interacting with this character from the very beginning of your time here at the retirement complex. So, Agent Oxford, what is the first thing you do and say whenever you come into the room here?
I think that the entity is rather close at the moment. I would advise that we hurry up with our investigations and move on to completing our objective before anything gets any worse. Also, I did smash a light bulb. I don't know if we need to fix that before we leave, but it happened.
It'll be part of the cleanup process. I think we will need to take care of several things. I say as I'm like putting back the watch.
Oh, are you all right up here? Perhaps we should move somewhere a little more private.
Yeah, maybe.
Are you hungry? I have an extra apple.
No, I'm too old to eat lunch. 2 meals a day.
Perfect. All right. So you all sort of remove yourselves to a more private space. I am imagining that's either just a quiet hallway, or maybe you went and talked to Ellie and got a little visitation room or something where you could have some privacy. And now, you've probably got a checklist as part of Bureau paperwork for an event like this. And the first check, what is the phenomenon? Let's talk about this.
Does anyone have any ideas? From what I have, it's some kind of malicious and sentient entity.
Linked to the doll, I think, and planted via garbage, via in a trash can to the scene to affect the retirement house.
Yeah, or it has a kind of association with rubbish bins and that somewhere where they show up.
I'm not sure if it maybe selects its victims. Like Oscar mentioned that he saw a different doll. So maybe the people that the entity manages to grab are somehow sharing some of the traits of the entity in like some links with it.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, the thing is, we didn't really ask about any of the other victims. I don't know if they might have had anything in common. I mean, you said that it tried to grab that weird old guy. Maybe it just wasn't. Maybe it just wasn't interested in him. He's a bit of a weirdo.
His name is Oscar.
I don't like him a little bit though. He seems smart.
Sure. Anyway.
All right. It sounds like you all have a pretty clear picture of what the phenomenon is. It's malicious, sentient, it's drawing people to the staircase, it manifests as a doll, and it manifests near garbage cans. That's a pretty clear understanding of that. The next question here on your checklist, how can the phenomenon be contained?
Do I know what they did in the Scotland case? Would Oxford have had access to those records?
Sure, yeah. I don't. I'll let you make up what they did there, but you looked at the records earlier in this mission, so it stands to reason that you would have checked that part of it.
Yeah, I think it's very clear in this case that the entity needs to be removed. It cannot simply be adapted to its current environment. It's a harm to everything around it. How we do that is kind of up to us. We could either try to reason with it, convince it that this is not the best place for it to be, or figure out what precisely is tying it here and remove that.
How do field ops and sanitation think about that idea?
What if we removed all the garbage cans so the spirit had no place to stay?
If people didn't need those, that would actually be a very good idea.
Yes, if only they were tied to something like plastic plants or decorations of some sort, something a little bit less necessary.
Yeah, I think that whatever is binding this entity here, if we can find some way to either bind it to something else or to remove the link in some way, I don't think it's going to be possible. So it's going to have to be option one, probably.
Option one, reason with the malicious entity. Yes.
No, I meant like
Oh.
bind it to a different place.
Okay. Yes, that does sound slightly better than trying to negotiate, but you know, I don't actually know how that could be done.
Compost dump. We'll tie it to a compost dump that we plant a tree in. That way there'll be a malicious tree entity.
But then it would make people hang from the tree. So it's just, I don't know, man.
We've all read report Q7994. We know how that turns
Never
out.
ends well.
Yes, I think wherever we do bind it, it should be something relatively non-harmful that we can kind of leave back up at the bureau and let some of the interns deal with from now and then, you know, something that we can remove from most polite society. Is there anything that's particularly, I guess, like evocative that we could draw on here? Anything with an association of garbage or anyone? No one happens to have like a creepy doll on them, do they?
I do have my crumpled up lunch sack.
That is garbage.
I mean, I do have the ability to make a simple binding ritual. So as long as we have a receptacle of some kind, I think that could work maybe.
Okay, so it sounds like maybe the plan that's coming together is that you want to physically contain the entity inside this crumpled up sandwich bag and then use the binding ritual to like psychically contain it in there as well.
It'll be like a little garbage Pokemon. Or Pokeball. Comfortable and it's a little garbage ball.
And we'll hope that this entity couldn't fight its way out of a wet paper bag.
I can't see, you know, I personally can't see anything going wrong with that plan whatsoever. So
Nah. All right, so then the final question: how will you obfuscate the phenomenon from the general public?
I mean, Oscar was already spreading a lot of conspiracy theories. So if we play into that,
Sure.
some old man just like spreading some rumors and then convincing people to actually perform the stuff or something. Well, I don't want to like blame him for it, but like, you know,
well,
in a way that is harmful.
I mean, nobody was very willing to talk about their experiences already. I mean, Ellie was very, very close-lipped. I think mainly the staff are doing our jobs for us in that regard. They obviously don't want it getting out that there's a murder ghost on the loose.
I feel like if we redid their floors, with a material with a little bit more grip, like a little bit more friction. That it was just slippery linoleum, So we'd come in and we retile everything, and we put in like something with just a little bit more texture, like that might throw the residents off a little bit. Be like, oh yeah, it's just people falling. They meet us halfway because they probably don't want to believe in the spooky dookie, right? So if we just are like, no, it was just slippery floors. Don't worry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So,
Makes me, yeah,
oh, go ahead.
no, nothing. It's fine.
Okay, so let's see here. We know that it's a malicious sentient entity that's drawing people to harm at this staircase. We know that we want to try and contain it in some trash and then bind it to that trash. And then as far as obscuring what's going on, the plan is to basically like play into the conspiracy theories, get the floors changed out, and hope that soothes or smooths things over. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think so, yeah.
Cool. So then
As
what we're going to...
a new handicap access.
Oh, yeah. Make it fully ADA compliant. It's going to be a gorgeous renovation. All right. So we've got our dice pool developed then. We know what it is. We know how we want to contain it. And we know what we're going to do to try and cover it up. Now we're going to roll the dice to see if your theory is the truth or if it's unfounded. So you've got your 3 dice. Does anybody of you want to roll, or do you want me to roll this one?
Do you want to go ahead and do it?
Sure. I haven't rolled all game. Why not? Let's give it a try. Yeah. Okay, so I've got these 3 dice. And, best I got was a 3.
Oh!
What this means is that your theory was completely off base.
It's actually not a malicious entity. It's just a really nice doll.
Right. Something about it. So first of all, let's go through here. The phenomenon is in fact it's either not sentient or it's not malicious. How it can be contained, binding it to a piece of trash, may not work, but we're gonna try it and find out. And then how will you obfuscate the phenomenon? Just get some renovations in order. Okay, cool. Well, things are not good, so we're going to start off the position as danger close because you are pursuing a theory that is actually not going to be a great response to this entity. So let's try it out. Who's going to do this first? I think maybe first we have to find the doll, right? Find the doll manifesting somewhere.
Maybe we're now so confident that we have everything in the bag and we've got a plan to obfuscate it that we're just actively not even trying to be subtle, looking in all of the bins,
Sure. Going around looking at all the bins, not really taking a whole lot of care in the situation. So
yeah.
who is it that's doing that? I think field ops is a natural choice, but it could be anybody.
Sure, I can be doing the trash investigation.
Okay, cool.
Looking through the
So we know we're danger close. We know that you inadvertently are putting yourselves into a very dangerous situation. So let's build the dice pool for this then. Agent Grease, how are you building this? Go through the list and tell us how you're putting it together.
Sure. So I think that I'm still acting like a trained agent.
Mm-hmm.
I've got gloves and everything, and I'm going very methodically through the hallways. I don't know if maybe if some of the rooms are empty, I would,
Mm-hmm.
but mostly it's just the general areas. Then I think that my background is relevant because it's field operations.
Mm-hmm. Well, your background is CIA agent. Your department is field operations, yeah.
But the CIA technically investigates, right? So
it does, yeah. You're good at investigating and that sort of thing.
Yeah. And then equipment. No, I don't think I've got anything here that is helpful.
You
So
know what I was thinking there is that maybe this role isn't just about finding the doll, it's also about binding it. I'm fine covering both of that ground. I think we're going to move the timeline forward a bit in this final phase anyway. So,
Yeah, that's fair.
okay.
So then I'm rolling 3 dice.
3 dice. Okay, cool.
Whoop. And that's a 4.
A 4. Okay, so let's see here. You do manage to find the doll, and you do manage to put it in this crumpled up lunch bag. I think probably Agent Oscar is overseeing this situation as well, being a part of the sanitations crew. And the two of you manage to get it in there. You use your little binding ritual. You get it what you think is fairly secure. It seems like, the doll isn't moving. The doll hasn't disappeared inside this bag. It seems like that's going to work. What does the doll look like this time?
Maybe wooden?
Like a puppet with no strings or something.
Yeah. Or maybe, what if, since it changes depending on the person, it seems, maybe when I lift it from the ground, I see like a more modern kind of doll, like a 80s Barbie or something that's missing an arm and has like half the hair cut out.
Just really
And
badly
it's just,
chopped.
yeah. And it's very unsettling to me in the way that the first one wasn't, because I couldn't relate to it, but this one is like, yikes.
Sure. So it's Creep Town. You put it in the bag. What does your binding ritual look like?
I think that it's very mundane as far as a binding ritual goes. I just put it inside, close it, and then I start to knock the launch case in a very rhythmical way. And as I am knocking it, the sound of it starts to change a little bit. So it goes from sounding like a pretty much empty launch bag to a more metallic sound, like if it was sturdier and bigger. And after a while, I just stop and I check again, and it seems pretty safe in there.
Okay. And then immediately, as a complication for this role, so Agent Oscar, you're overseeing this situation, and then behind you, you hear this shrill voice, "What are you doing in my room?" And you turn around, and there's this flamboyantly dressed person who's standing in the doorway, and he's like, "I want you to get out of my room. I can't believe you're here. This is an invasion of my privacy, and I'm going to call the authorities immediately. Look at you. You're maintenance people. Get out of my room. You should have had permission. I can't believe it."
Sorry, official government business. We just please give us 5 minutes and we'll be out of your hair.
Government business? What does the government want with my room? I have nothing to hide.
Pronouns for this person?
They, them.
They, them. Just give us a moment, and I promise you, we just need a moment, and you just need to stay out of the way for now.
Let's make a roll to try and smooth this over.
If this doesn't work, I'm gonna judo chop them.
I do want to, yeah, right. I do want to take a quick break, though. I want to say that, or a pause, I should say. Emma, as a result of your role, I advanced the mission clock by 1. So if the mission clock fills again, then the next bad thing will happen. Is that something that you want to redact?
I think I'm fine for now. If it goes up again, I'll try to redact it, but I'll leave it hanging
Okay.
at the moment.
I'd like make a quick clarification as well. Where is Oxford right now? Because he's not been helping with this search, so I don't know if he could really help with this situation.
Sure. I mean, if you want to say that you've been in this room the whole time too, that's fine. You can also say that you were somewhere nearby and you heard the commotion and came to, check in on it.
Maybe Oxford has stayed downstairs or stayed in the main corridor to watch the basement steps.
Oh, sure. Sure, you're
That
making
makes
sure that
sense.
nobody else shows up and takes a tumble or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good. Okay, so Ray, let's see how you resolve this tense situation with this belligerent resident.
Yeah, so Oscar, I think, is using typical agent training right now, at least just trying to, get them away with bureaucrat speech.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I have a relevant background. I don't know if a U.S. Marine, being a U.S. Maybe it does. Maybe I had to deal with people on tour, like in much a similar matter.
Your drill sergeant or something.
Sure. And I'm not going to draw on my paranormal powers for sure. And I have practical jumpsuit, radio, cleanup kit, skeleton key. Can I say that I turned like my radio on really loudly right now so that it covers up the conversation so that like maybe others don't hear?
Oh, sure. Yeah. There's some sort of really nasty feedback that is a part of your obfuscation here. That makes sense.
Yeah. Crank it up. So that's 3 dice. And that is a 4 again. I just keep rolling 4.
Okay. So as you're going through, you're sort of making these people. You're trying to calm this person's anxieties and get them out of the room.
5 minutes. That's all we need. Just please, just step away from the ritual. I mean, step away from the other agent and the sack of lunch trash doll. Just back away, please. I don't need to repeat myself here.
So I think you are you're turning the resident around. You're sort of pushing them out of the door or whatever. I think you're balancing this static to cover up the noise with just moving along, right? And I think the resident is pushed and takes a tumble out of the doorway and falls.
No.
Are you interested in redacting that?
No, I don't believe in resisting consequences in any FIT system.
Please. How old are they? Because depending on that, I might redact if I'm allowed to.
Sure. I mean, different people at different ages are in different conditions, right? And like my 90-year-old grandma is in the shape of a 70-year-old, right? So I think like this person is looks pretty physically well, right? It doesn't look like they're gonna break a bone if they fall down, for example. They might like sprain their wrist or something like that, but we're not talking about like real permanent harm, just a bigger ruckus.
Oh, I feel really bad about the old person falling over, but it is your consequence, so I'm not gonna redact that. That would be unfair.
Emma, you had your hand raised. Are you gonna do something here?
I am tempted to redact it, but I don't think it might make a lot of sense if I'm like in another room doing a ritual, as much as I would like no elderly to be harmed in the course of this.
Fine, I'll redact it. I won't let the old person fall.
We can say you like rush into catch or something like that.
Can I say I use my telekinesis? And then, like I said,
yeah. That sounds awesome. Okay, cool. So how much resonance do you have?
I have 1 ticked, and the other is unticked.
So then you roll 1 die, and we see how much resonance you gain preventing this.
Roll a 4.
A 4,
again.
Cool. So you increase your resonance by 2, and what happens instead?
So as the person is tripping, I kind of reach out, I'm like, wait, and then I just kind of, and they sort of like hover at like a 30, 35 degree angle.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just like kind of straining, and I have like a little nosebleed coming out, and then I gently like set them down so they don't like actually, they still like fall, but they're just softly, basically.
Sure. Okay. So I think that is, even though you redacted the consequence, I'm gonna say I would have checked a box there, but I'm not going to, because you redacted the consequence. So things don't get further out of control, but things are pretty messy right now. So Agent Oxford, you are sort of monitoring the staircase situation. Are you doing that because this is where the culmination of the binding ritual is going to take place, or are you strictly just concerned for the well-being of the other people here?
I think that Oxford is really interested in this doll, and is really interested in an encounter with it. I feel maybe that's come through a little bit. But he also does know, like, he had the very strong premonition that, like, that where the like light bulb broke over him was where the next accident was going to take place. And I think he's just kind of like standing there hoping to prevent it, because he's a little bit uneasy about the prospect of binding such a powerful, what he assumes to be a powerful, sentient, malicious entity in a paper bag.
Sure, sure. So I don't think there's anything for you to roll right now, but I want to let you know that the next tick of the mission clock will result in somebody potentially falling down these stairs. So you being there puts you in an ideal place to redact that if it happens.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, so we've got the entity in this bag. We've got the situation, the commotion in the hallway. It's starting to attract attention. So how do agents Oscar and Grease get out of this situation? How do we extract ourselves from the retirement center trouble and get to a place where we can safely contain and begin the obscuring process here?
So the idea here would be to like get out of the complex first.
Yeah, so you're thinking like just going maybe to the vehicle that you brought here or something like that?
Sure, yeah.
Okay. And you've all got radios, so even though Oxford is still in the staircase, you can communicate with each other and get that stuff worked out. Let's see. So we need to start obscuring what's going on here. So we can do another action roll to figure out like how you're implementing this plan to renovate the facility. Are you going to talk to the administrators and have them start this process, and so it's sort of a negotiation, or are you maybe calling in Agent Grease's operatives to pose as renovators and get it done right now? What sort of approach do we want to take here?
Oh, so this is like going to happen right now.
Oh yeah,
I thought as a more like long-term.
we can say
thing.
that it happens over the course of several weeks. I'm just thinking like, what action do we put in motion to make that happen?
It could be maybe we go back to Ellie and be like, well, we fixed the lights, except for the one that we shattered. Well, we were fixing it. Sorry. But also, we noticed some other things that are.
Laurie.
Oh, Laurie, you're fritzing out a little bit.
Yeah, we lost you for a second there.
Yeah, still frozen up.
You're good now.
Okay, looks like you're back.
Sorry about that. I don't know what happened there.
No problem. So you were saying you were talking to Ellie, and then that was basically as far as we got.
Yeah, go back to Ellie and be like, okay, so, we noticed whilst we were fixing the lights some other things that weren't necessarily compliant with health and safety regulations. So, if anyone has been slipping on the floor, not that we're saying they have, but if they have, maybe we just need some more kind of gritty flooring, maybe some carpet or something.
And I don't know if like this makes sense within the power that the bureau can hold, but like if we can maybe provide them with funding for this, I think that it would make things smoother for sure.
Sure. I think that would have to be some sort of department permission. There's another department that folks can play as called the administration department, and that would be a perfect thing to try and like secure funding or something like that. But with the three of you, I'm thinking that honestly, your team of NPCs, Emma, is maybe the best bet here.
Yeah.
Working, organizing them to come and pose as renovators or something like that.
Cool.
Yeah, and then we can just say that we've paid, like that we've covered it, but actually we totally haven't.
Sure.
Covered it in the
I
sense
was-
that like they're on payroll.
Yeah.
People have no idea how to lay a carpet.
Right.
Who's paying for all this? 2 months later, they just get an invoice for like 25 grand.
Somebody says the words, "This is a garbage job," and then the entity just pops up all over again. Okay, so let's see here. I know that Agent Oxford was sort of approaching Ellie, so do you want to be the one who's heading up this report and sort of putting that obscuration into place?
That would mean leaving the stairs. So yeah, absolutely. What could go wrong?
Yeah, nothing, right? Okay, so we're still, I think things are still danger close. They've gotten out of hand progressively, and so we're still in a really bad situation. But what are you bringing to bear for this action roll here, or investigation roll, I should say?
Well, you see, Ellie, he's really got nothing. He's like, what can he actually offer? This is not, in no way is this typical for a trained agent, right? Like,
Yeah, I think not.
he doesn't know anything about interior decor. Like, he has no relevant standard or special issue gear. And like, how on earth would you draw on paranormal powers to convince someone to renovate? Like,
I mean, so we know that the paranormal entity here compels people. You could maybe that's part of the ambient paranormal energy around here, and you get a little bit of a boost that way.
can you mind control someone to just like get a new carpet?
Seems like a strange use of it, but I'll allow it.
I mean, for one die?
Yeah, I mean...
Well, yeah, what if it's like they slip while you're explaining the problems?
Oh, because
mean,
we've established that some little accidents happen here and there. So maybe Ellie is like has a little accident herself, you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. While you're talking.
Okay.
And it doesn't have
Yeah.
to be harm, right? It could be that her pen explodes and she's got ink all over her hands. Like we can get creative there as far as what the little accident is.
Yeah. I mean, with one dice, I feel like causing someone to have an accident could go very badly wrong, but that's fine. I'm happy to roll it and see what happens.
Sure, yeah. So let's give this a go then with your one die. Danger close. What's the worst that could happen?
Well, roll a 3.
Perfect. This is delightful. Okay, so I'm going to say that I'm going to mark 2 checks, which means that really terrible things are going to happen. Not only, I think 2 people are going to fall in the course of this investigation, but we could use redaction to prevent that from happening. Is that something you're interested in doing, Agent Oxford?
I think so. But I'm not sure if he would be able to prevent all of the consequences. Like,
Sure.
I don't know if that makes narrative sense.
Sure, yeah.
Actually, you know what? It's a one shot. We're not going to redact it. Terrible things can happen.
Okay. So then, I think this is the last role of the mission. At this point, you've got the object, you've got the plan in place to obscure it, and we will go ahead and fast forward to the debrief where I will describe what happened in these final moments. And so you all, long story short, the mission did not go well. You kind of hang your heads, get in your vehicle, drive through the desert. A random highway turns into a tunnel, and 5 to 35 minutes later, you're back on the East Coast at the Bureau, ready for the debrief. So, stepping into my general manager role again, we're back in that room with the table and the wood paneling and the projector, and the first slide. Yeah, exactly. The first slide on the presentation, I click over to, and I say, unfortunately, there was a serious injury and a death involved at the end of your mission. We know this, of course. The serious injury was a resident, Myra Morgan is her name, and she fell and broke her hip as a result of the staircase entity. And unfortunately, someone who I believe you had contact with, Oscar Green, alias Herman Green.
Oscar!
A few days after you left, he himself took a tumble down the stairs and in fact did not survive, regrettably. So let's go through our debrief checklist here, agents, and prepare yourselves for reprimands and consequences. Question 1. Did you identify, secure, and collect the phenomenon?
We believe so.
We thought so, but obviously we didn't, because it's still making people fall down the stairs.
I mean, it could be a different one.
Oh, oh yes, that second staircase entity that we must have come in after the first.
Yeah.
Sir.
All right. So I believe that means that no, the phenomenon was not contained if it continued to cause problems after the fact. Of course, we appreciate your efforts and we're certain that you did your due diligence, but sometimes these things are out of our control. Second question. Did you avoid credible civilian witnesses and secure all related evidence? I understand we have in our possession a paranormal entity in the shape of a doll inside a metallized paper bag.
It seemed like a good idea at the time.
Look, I mean, I'm pretty sure, at least I didn't, not see any paranormal activity occurring in front of the residents, so I'm pretty sure they didn't notice anything going wrong. And
According to my best assessment and review of the report that you have filed, I see that the most contact you had with residents was in fact with Mr. Green, and since he is now deceased, we can consider this to be a roundabout way of avoiding credible civilian witnesses. So we will say yes in this regard. Third question. Did you cover up the identity of the phenomenon and the existence and purpose of the Bureau?
That part, yes. We actually issued a renovation that should be going on as we speak. And as far as it seemed, most of the residents seemed to think that it was a matter of a little slippery in the floor. So more aids for mobilization for them now with the new renovations should obscure a little bit the presence of the entity.
Having said that, if residents do keep throwing themselves down the stairs even after we put in that nice carpet, that might put a little bit of a fly in the ointment.
But that hasn't happened yet.
Yes.
Also, we said that we'd pay for it, but we didn't really have an administrator agent on the scene at the time, but seeing as how we have one in front of us right now, yeah.
Yes, we can reimburse the field team for any materials they may have picked up. From what I understand, they aren't trained renovators, but we will manage this to the best of our ability. I think we can at least say that the Bureau's identity is safe for now. Perhaps there are loose ends that we should consider, but we'll get there. Now, did you avoid civilian casualties and collateral damage? Unfortunately, the answer is no. We have discussed these elements already. And next question. Did you obey all sanctions and prohibitions placed on you by the Bureau? Was there any use of uncertified powers? Did you use department permissions in a conspicuous way? And are any of you currently under any disciplinary actions or reprimands?
Not to my knowledge, no.
As far as I'm aware, I'm good.
Plead the fifth.
Consulting Agent Oscar's record briefly, we do see that there are currently no disciplinary actions or reprimands on file. So we will say yes in this event. Final question. Did all Bureau members return from the mission alive? I see that all three of you have, and according to our latest reports, the field team is wrapping up work, and there were no casualties reported there, aside from some strange senses of disorientation and vertigo in the course of the renovation. So we will say yes, all Bureau members returned from the mission alive. Now, the team may select one team member to receive a special commendation. This can be for their actions during the mission, going above and beyond, or exemplary service to the Bureau. Do any of you feel that commendations are in order for any members of your team?
I'll be honest, I'm not really sure that anyone here deserves a commendation. Of course, we all tried our absolute best. Actually, I've changed my mind. You know, I saw some of the work that the field team were doing. One of them laid a real good bit of carpet, and I do feel like that deserves a bit
It's
of a
seriously
shout out.
nice. You can lie down on there all day. It's really something else. It really puts the whole room together.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, that's probably the best thing to come out of this mission.
We'll make sure Agent Dobbs receives a commendation for her service installing the carpet.
You should get her to look at these offices too. I mean, she's really got an eye for this stuff.
Yes, of course. Yes, we will consider that, of course. But the current state of the conversation is on your conduct and performance. I believe that. So let's review here. The debrief has told us that no, you did not identify, secure, and collect the phenomenon. And no, you did not avoid civilian casualties and collateral damage. That means that each of you have some paperwork that you'll need to file. And dropping character for a minute, each of you should check 2 boxes on your paperwork file.
Oh.
Let's see. Okay, these two things. Did you identify, secure, and collect the phenomenon? Either everybody takes one paperwork for that, or one of you can step forward and take responsibility for that. And then you're the only one who gets paperwork.
I can take responsibility. Technically, I was the one in charge of the containing situation, and it didn't go very well.
How noble of you. Yes, then in that case, the paperwork will be placed only upon your shoulders, not upon everyone else's. And then did you avoid civilian casualties and collateral damage? Do any one of you want to take responsibility for the harm that was caused to civilians during the course of the investigation? Agent Oscar, I see there was some reckless activity from you, and Agent Oxford, I see that there was an attempt logged to keep the stairwell safe, but ultimately that did not come to fruition. I think this responsibility is shared between the two of you, which means that, of course, everyone is going to have to file some additional paperwork.
Man.
Yeah. I mean, look, it's not like any of us pushed any civilians over or anything like that. So I suppose we could take collective responsibility.
Yes, of course. In that case, we will now determine if any reprimands are due.
Wait, the clarification, that's 350 words, double space, 14 font, okay?
Yes, if we're talking about a word count, then I don't care what the spacing or font size is. That's fine.
Yeah, all right.
You'll be receiving the forms with instructions on them, though, so keep that in mind. Now, the disciplinary actions that we are going to have to take here. So I need each of you to roll dice according to the number of paperwork that you have.
Oh, man.
No, I'm sorry. Equal to the reprimands that you currently have. You don't have any, so roll 2 dice and take the higher number. And actually, I said that wrong. It's actually the lower of the 2.
5.
5?
2.
2?
2.
2. Okay. So Agents Oscar and Oxford, I didn't want to run the risk of confusing the two of you, and so you have both been assigned menial duties. You have undesirable tasks leveled against you as a sort of disciplinary action for your conduct during the mission. You must spend time during your hours at the Bureau taking part in these activities. For Agent Grease, your failure to contain the entity is the direct cause of these casualties, and so you are facing disciplinary action. Your powers and department permissions are prohibited until the end of your next mission. And any use of paranatural energies or department resources by you is considered unsanctioned by the Bureau and may incur additional paperwork or inhibit your ability to perform actions as a trained Bureau agent. Please understand this reprimand is temporary, although it will be permanently marked on your permanent record. Do we have any closing thoughts as agents of the Bureau with regard to this mission that I can enter into the record? Yes, Agent Oscar.
So that's like C plus then?
I think there's a Tableau freeze frame at that point, and then the credits start to roll. So, everyone, that was External Containment Bureau. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in, and thanks especially to my players. We can go through really quickly and reintroduce ourselves. Say a little bit about what you thought of the game, and if you have any social media links or projects that you want to plug right now, I know some of us have Zine Quest projects going on as well. Please be sure to plug those. So let's start with Laurie.
Hi, yeah. Reintroducing myself. Laurie, you can find me at Laurie_EE on Twitter. I think there's something on the overlay. And currently, I am kickstarting for Zine Quest an RPG about trans necromancers called Lichcraft, which you should be able to find pretty easily. And you should all go back whilst you still have the chance.
Absolutely. Lichcraft looks amazing. I'm a backer there, and I'm very excited to see the finished product. That's going to be awesome. And thank you so much for joining, Laurie. It was a real pleasure having your experience with paranormal media to bear in this game. So thank you very much. Next, let's do Emma.
Yeah, so this was a lot of fun. I really liked how it was structured, and we got to see through the consequences of what we were doing at different levels. I thought that was pretty cool. Yeah, you can find me online at SpookyMeal on Twitter, Tumblr, Instagram. And also, I am kickstarting a project for Zine Quest. It's called Crescent Moon. It will be starting on February 13 and will run for 2 weeks. It's about adventurers, kids who go into dreams and make all sorts of discoveries about the world and about themselves.
Wonderful. Well, thank you very much. It was great playing with you. This is the second or third time we've played a game together, and it's been great every time. So yeah, glad to see you again. And last but not least, Ray.
Yeah, I had a great time. It was really fun playing like an investigation game and sort of going through and grabbing clues and stuff like that. That's not like a type of role playing I do too often, so it's like kind of new to me, the format. But I had a great time, and it was cool seeing the bureaucracy come into bear too. I think Eli did a really good job of like evoking like what it would be like to get paperwork and bad ratings, which is really funny. Yeah, I write comics and RPGs and publish RPGs and stuff. You can find my work at www.mythopia.us or mythopia.itch.io. And we are also going to do a Zine Quest project at the end of the month called Pro Patrimonium, but that's going to launch probably the last week of February.
Exciting.
So check it out when it's live.
Laurie, you had something you want to say?
Yeah, I forgot to give feedback because you called me first and I got flustered. But I wanted to say I had a really, really good time. And as someone who has never had an office job, like, you did a real good job of evoking that office horror.
Yeah, it's real.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Thanks so much for GMing too. It was great.
You bet. And Ray, thanks for playing. I really appreciate your design insights, and we've got to know each other a little bit over the past year. And like, it's always a pleasure playing with you. So real good to see you. Once again, I'm Eli Kurtz, and I am producing External Containment Bureau with some wonderful collaborators, Lexi Antoku, Eric Brunsell, Michael Elliott, and Justin Ford. We're kickstarting from February 9th until February 23rd, 2021, so head over to the Kickstarter and check it out. Anyone who mentioned links where you can find them, I'm going to plug those into the show notes on YouTube, so you should be able to find hyperlinks for everything there. And once again, folks, thanks so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the game. This is an in-development look at the game, so, no guarantee that this is how things are going to end up whenever the book is in your hands, but we're very excited to put it together and get it out to you. So until then, everyone, take care and have a wonderful day And watch out for the paranormal.